Hello, Happy New Year. Happy Sherpa Losar, which means Happy Sherpa New Year. See if we can get the control stork. There we go. And I'm recording this time. So this Thursday is the new moon. So always the new moon in February is the Sherpa Tibetan New Year. And this year is a chemist's favorite year. It is the year of the metal ox. So only once every 60 years. So what's a Sherpa? Well, in case you don't know, they are those extremely happy, hardy climbers of the Himalayas. They followed their yak herds from Tibet. So the word Sherpa is actually a Tibetan word that meant Easterners. They came from Eastern Tibet. They went over a pass by Mount Everest, the Shangri-La Pass, and they crossed into the Khumbu Valley. And they found this lush valley that their yaks loved, and they lived there for hundreds of years before the king of Nepal even knew they were there. And so then when the Europeans came and wanted to climb the highest mountain in the world, they found that these people were just so wanting to help and always so happy and willing to do what was needed. And they were strong, like the yaks. They carried these crazy huge loads. And Pimba, actually that's Pimba on top of Mount Everest, by the way. We can go back so you can see the view from the top of the world. This is about 30 years ago, before the circus up there started. And so he was a climber, and he's holding the Nepalese flag because he is Nepalese. And when he was a young lad, he actually was a yak herder. And there's me without the superhuman pack, and Joey, who does have a small pack. And I'm not carrying the superhuman pack because the real Sherpa who is with us, Pimba, was carrying my pack because I am very slow when I get to high altitude. And yeah, and so he took my pack and we made it over the pass, and I'm still here. And there's Pimba just saying thumbs up. It's just keep going. Sherpas always have a smile on their face, always a positive attitude. Keep that in mind as you're doing the lab. Most important part of the lab. So it's the year of the ox. What's that mean? Well, in the Sherpa Tibetan culture, traditionally it was the year of the yak. That's a picture I gotta take of the yak because I was really slow. And so we were there in the monsoon season and got to see them nursing their babies, and their horns are really like that. So you're part of your bonus is you're going to tell me what your zodiac sign is. So you're not just an animal, but there are 12 animals. So you Google your year of birth. And if you're January or early February, you are actually the year before, because the new year is always the new moon in February. So you might have to look up the new moon of that year to figure out what your birthday is, and to find out what your animal is. Again, there's 3 parts to it. And so there is, the order that they go in was that there was a race. The Jade Emperor had a race, and my dog is wanting to be part of the race. Anyway, so the numbers are the order they came in. I'm actually the year of the dragon. So I'm a phoenix because I'm a female. And so the dragon, one of the stories is the dragon wins the race, but he doesn't cross the finish line because there are wolves waiting to devour all the other animals. And so the dragon carries the wolves up into the atmosphere, and they are the Pleiadians, that constellation. And so that's the myth they have for that constellation. You can see in the lower left-hand corner, the rat gets to be number 1. So that is the year that we are ending in the next 2 days. The year of the rat, or the plague year, right? And number 2 is the year of the ox. And so there they are. The race is on. The Jade Emperor is watching in the order they come in. And so the story earlier, Rocky came when I did this and didn't hit play or didn't hit record. So hopefully I'm recording. But anyway, so the animals, the cat wouldn't wake up. The cat was sleeping, like my cat is sleeping now. And so the rat went out and he ran into water, and rats don't cross water. But then the ox came along and he asks the ox, if I sing into your ear, if I sing to you, will you take me across? And so you can see the ox is very delighted as the rat sings to him, and they're crossing. And then the rat is a rodent, and as soon as it saw land, it didn't want to be on the water anymore, and it jumped off and crossed the finish line just because it was scurrying to get out of everywhere, because that's what they do. Look at the koi fish. And the ox moseyed along, so it came in second place. And the ox really didn't care what place it came in, because the ox was about helping others and being team players. The dog, by the way, comes in 11th, because the dog is loyal, and the dog didn't want to leave his friend, the pig. All right, so the year of the ox, what does it mean? Some of the auspiciousness of this year is strength of character, unwavering determination. More on that in a moment. The other part is you have 5 elements. So these are not the elements we talked about. These are actually in the elements of Tibetan Chinese medicine. And so they're slightly different elements. And so that's why metal shows up instead of air. And so it is a metal year. So you have to figure out what year you are. So you're not just, say, a monkey. You might be a wood monkey or a water monkey, and it actually has a different meaning. So, and the third aspect is you're either a yin or a yang year. So there's actually a 120-year cycle. So this is why the metal ox is only every 60 years. And every 120 years, it's a yin year. So we are in the yin metal ox year. So you can tell me if you're yin yang sign, if you're metal, fire, wood, water, earth, and then what element, what animal you are, and then something about your sign. So that's bonus point. All right, so if you're a metal ox, if you were born 60 years ago, this is what the Sherpa Tibetans say: the metal oxen are indefatigable. So find a good adjective to describe you. They are tough as steel nails. They are the most hardworking. So the year of the ox is hard work. And I've been very grateful to all the hard work you've all shown, all my dear students. They're socially quiet, highly responsible. They look after their family. And this is my favorite part of this year: integrity. Because, you know, there are wonderful qualities to the rat, but rats do not show integrity. And this past year was the hardest year of my life as a teacher. The level of integrity just diminished. And so far, you have all been so wonderful. Let's keep it up. Let's end beautifully. And it's not who wins the race, it's that we finish with grace and dignity. And yeah, and hard work, because you can all do this in such a beautiful way. Now, something about the Sherpa Tibetan, there is always a part. The metal ox can be inflexible and rigid and not always accept the differences of others, but their relentless drive, unceasing energy allows them to achieve great things. They often assume leadership roles, as do every sign. They usually are very set. Once they're set, they want to go that way. Don't mess with me. But the life lesson we can get from this, we can all change, right? And we can learn to listen to others and to function better as a team and to help others, like the ox so graciously helped the rat. So what do they do on the Sherpa New Year? They have a big festival. Probably not this year. And they all, the monks dress up in these masks and they dance, and you light butter lamps and you turn prayer wheels. High in the Himalayas, they paint, spray paint coffee cans to show the prayer wheels. And as you pass them, you send a prayer. So my prayer is for all of us to have a most blessed and wonderful New Year. Perhaps be back in lab soon. And what I really think of is the food, that there's so much food. So there's the momo dumplings, the Nepali thali, which you get seconds of, which are all different types of curry. There is the butter tea, which is made with butter. There they are making, these special desserts. And you can see they're making cool designs. And you see the monks are happy. They're joyful. That's the thing with the Sherpas. I got tutor some Tibetan monks, and they didn't learn much English from me, but they were always joyful and laughing and the greatest sense of humor. And there's Joey enjoying his 7th round of Nepali thali. And this is the highest monastery in the world, Rinpoche, just below on the Tibetan side of Everest. By the way, they don't call it Everest. In Tibet, it's Chumolungma, and in Nepal, in the Sherpa language, it's Sagamartha. And I asked Pimba once what that means, and he said opposite of sea level. So I love that definition. You won't find that on Google. So she is serving him butter tea. So it is made with butter. They churn the yak butter, and it's really high in fat, and it's the calories you need when you're at that altitude. And I always got Joey's cup, and she came over. She's the nun at that monastery because Pimba had saved the head lama's life like 20 years before, had brought him medicine when he was on an expedition there. And that's in our kitchen, far away from Tibet, and that's making potato pancakes like 2 years ago on Sherpa New Year. So that's like our favorite. And there's the secret green sauce that I refer to sometimes in bonus questions. Another thing they do on the Sherpa Tibetan New Year is they paint these elaborate, this is made with sand. So this is sand art, and they make these mandalas out of sand. And it takes them a week, many monks working all day long and just carefully putting it there. And then on the seventh day, they dance on it. They play their drums, they chant, and it's a representation of the impermanence, of non-attachment, that of the moment. And what we're going to do instead of make a sand mandala is we're going to dye eggs, because it is also another tradition. Done it for 10 years, so definitely a tradition. But we're not going to do it the way people in this country do it. We're going to do it the traditional way. You're going to extract the dyes, the polyphenols, the most wonderful molecules, all those antioxidants from flowers, from a vegetable, a fruit, and a spice or flower. So you're going to extract 3 dyes, and you get vibrant colors, and then you do 3 eggs. You can do more. And so some of the challenges in a different order than up there, you can do more than 3 and try and do the Roy G. Biv. That would be cool. You can put a design on there, and I have an explanation on the next slide how to do that. You can do tape. So you put tape, thin tape around, make a design, you put it in one dye, and then you take the tape off and you put it in the other dye. If you take the egg out and there's no color, you have to leave it in longer. You can do a hot glue one design. And this is a Chinese, so marbled, 100-year-old marbled egg. So they actually soak it in, they hard boil it, then they tap to break the shell very gently. And then they soak it in soy sauce with tea and different spices. And apparently it has this most delectable taste. Since these are all natural dyes, absolutely. So you could do the soy sauce one, or you could try and do blueberry, whatever you want. So play with it. You can make ninja eggs, right? The Ninja Turtles. This is, so after you hard boil your egg, you have a wet shell, you put a really tiny leaf on it. So a fern or parsley works really well, or really tiny flower. And then you wrap it with a nylon, you soak it in the dye, and yeah, you get these beautiful designs. So there's examples of that. And there's just some of the colors you can Google. I have a list of some of the colors we've gotten. Mixing them gives you this awesome. So experiment. That's what this is about, is to do an experiment in your kitchen with joy and love and integrity. You can make a red ox egg. So you can put a design with a crayon and, sorry, there's a lot of noise in the background. You can do your egg, you can do your year. So if you're the year of the monkey, you can make a monkey egg or a pig egg. I don't know, be creative. I couldn't find a red ox egg to show you an example. So somebody there can't. I found cow muffin, so I thought that was funny. If you're going for the red ox, or you're going for the Valentine egg, because it is Valentine's weekend, you could do beets. And those of you in my Chem 105, you also are supposed to figure out what the molecule is and draw it. And a reminder for you in my 105, you're going to pick a molecule that you're going to write a paper about and do a presentation at the end of the term. Those of you in my 106, if you're watching this, you can do it on the whole beet if you want. You can do cranberries. You can do cranberry juice and put the beets in there and try and go for a really dark red. We usually pull it out pretty fast because we're going for a pink color or something. Those are not natural dyes. Those are not, those are fake colors. But you must add vinegar. These are some of the post-lab questions now I will answer for you because its acidity dissolves the waxy coating on the egg and allows the dye to adhere. You can do it in purple cabbage because that red cabbage has pigments called anthocyanins. So there's some more of the polyphenols. Aren't they beautiful? And the anthocyanins are a pH indicator. They change color with pH. That's the answer to your question for those of you, the post-lab question for those of you in 221 and 105. It's a pH indicator, the anthocyanins. And you can draw a molecule if you decide to do red cabbage. So you first soak it in the vinegar with the red cabbage, and you will get, will be a red color of the dye for about 5 minutes. Make sure you dissolve the waxy coating. And then you add a base, baking soda, and you add the base until you get the color you want, like this teal color. And you can see the egg is in there. That's the white that's in there. And you leave it in until you take it out with a spoon and see if your egg's the color you want. As it dries, it will change color a little bit, but we've gotten some beautiful teal blue-green eggs doing this acid-base pH trick. Some more geeky science stuff and more answers to your post-lab. The yolk color is determined by the chicken's diet. So it is more awesome molecules. So carotenoids and xanthophiles. I've never gotten like carrots to work to turn orange. You would think it should, or pumpkin because of the beta carotene, but somebody can try. But anyway, the egg yolk of chickens that are fed real food that are filled with beta carotene, the pigment ends up in the yolk and it's a huge antioxidant. It's a powerful antioxidant and it makes the cholesterol safe. And so the really dark yolks are because of the carotenoids and the xanthophiles in there. Most store-bought eggs, the chickens are treated horribly and they are not fed healthy diet, and the egg yolk is very pale, like at the top color, and that's because it's missing all these antioxidants. Has nothing to do with the unicorn. All right. Why do you get a green yolk sometimes? Maybe you've never seen this, but if you hard boil your egg too long, the sulfur and the hydrogen in the egg white react with the iron in the yolk, and that's what you get. You get a pretty bad smell too from the sulfur, like phthals. It discolors the yolk, and you actually get a green yolk. So if you want a green yolk, hard boil the egg for a long, long, long time. If you don't, then after you boil, you put it in cool water. I have in there a different way that we do it. Having done this with hundreds of kids, we had to find the sure way not to get a cracked egg. All right. Safety first. So we no longer do the egg in, I do the egg separate from the dye, cook the dye, and then add the egg, the hard boiled egg to it. You can try cooking the egg in the dye. You can soak it longer. It's kind of your experiment. Just tell me what you did. And if you have safety goggles, you should wear them. This is the only time I ever had an incident. Not the only time, but these will bloop, like the bloop, bloop, bloop. So just be careful. Don't, when you're heating them. So use a nice big pot on the stove. The dyes. Yeah, and your partners. That is actually one of the challenges, is do this lab with somebody. You all have somebody in your household, in your life, and you need more joy. We all need more joy. We need more smiles. And so whether it's your offspring, right, teamwork. And so these are just pictures. We got to see the yaks, and I just love these pictures. And since it's year of the yak, year of the ox, I just wanted to share some of the pictures when we were in Nepal, and they're feeding the yaks salt, and they crave it. They were gorgeous. There were no other tourists there. That's why the yaks came right up to us. Just gorgeous animals. Huge horns. Life lesson, teamwork, work in a team. So these were my team players this Saturday. I would have been doing this with the kids. And since I'm not allowed to have anybody in the lab with me, you guys are going to be my kids. And you're going to do this in your kitchen. And you're going to take an awesome picture of you and your egg afterwards, smiling and laughing, or making it, even pictures during, and have fun. Have fun, make cool designs, get lots of bonus points. If you want, you can make me a traditional Losar greeting card, Losar Bay Tashi Delay, wishing you goodwill for an auspicious and prosperous new year. Oh yeah, I'm not done. I'm going to read the story to you. The picture in the background is actually Annapurna, and that is actually, we walked around them. The Annapurna Cirque is really famous. But I wish all of you, if you want to stop now, you can, or you can listen to me read you the story. I wish you all an auspicious and a prosperous new year. This is one of my favorite stories that I wrote long before the first Sherpas led their yaks over the Shangri-La Pass. There were gnomes. Of course there were gnomes. Once upon a time, there were 4 little gnomes named Jestai, Eekburp, Yojenga, and Faf. There's Faf. But their friends all called them Tai, Yo-Yo, Eek, and Faf. There's Faf again. They were mischievous little gnomes who lived with an alluringly aromatic alchemist in her beautiful garden. That's what my garden looks like. Isn't that beautiful? My rusty old bike. My bike. Now, my dears, said the alchemist, spring is upon us, because that's what Sherpa New Year means. It's the beginning of spring. And it's time to dye and hide eggs. So what should we use to make our dyes this year? Eekburp burped. Berries! Blueberries and blackberries for high frequency violet, indigo, and blues. And raspberries for low frequency red. And Eekburp. Eekburp scampered off to find Airy Berry Fitzfairy. Now, the picture I showed before with all my helpers, they're all in the story. That's why I wrote the story for them. The alchemist sent the other gnomes to find veggies and herbs to extract dyes, and maybe even some lichen. Now run along and don't get into mischief while I go collect eggs. And remember, don't go into Mr. Hesselgesser's garden, or you'll end up like Armonubbins, welded and casted into a garden statue. Oh, that gnome, cringed the 3 little gnomes at the thought. Tai and Yo, who were good little mischievous gnomes, went to gather flowers, but not Faf, who was extra mischievous, ran straight away to Mr. Hesselgesser's garden and squeezed under the fence. There he is, little mischievous Faf. First he ate some habanero peppers and some radishes, and then he ate some carrots, spaghetti squash, a tomato, and an eggplant. And then he ate a bologna, banana, bacon sandwich with fries. And then he felt rather sick, so he went to look for some cilantro. He found some parsley. Parsley, again, works really good for the nylon eggs because it has this very delicate, intricate pattern. But round the end of a cucumber frame, whom should Faf meet but Mr. Hesselgesser, covered with grease, rebuilding his truck's transmission. When Mr. Hesselgesser saw the little gnome, he waved his socket wrench at Faf, calling out, "Stop, gnome!" Faf was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he'd forgotten the way back to the gate. And to make matters worse, he lost his left shoe and his left sock among the cabbages. Oh no, and then he lost his other left shoe and his other left sock amongst the potatoes. That's where the term 2 left feet come from, because gnomes have 2 left feet. It's useful for them. Faf ran and he 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 ran on his chubby little gnome feet, so that I think he might have got away altogether if he had not, unfortunately, run into a garden ornament. Faf shuddered as he recognized his old gnome buddy, Armonubbins. Faf slowly edged to the side as he realized the statue's eyes were following him. Go ahead, move to the side. The eyes will keep following you. He did not want to get lost in those concrete eyes. Faf froze when he realized the statue was muttering, "Stand perfectly still. He won't be able to see you. He can't hear for beans." So Faf stood still for a long, 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 long time. But poor Faf had a chronic case of foot fungus. His left foot itched terribly. The old adage, if you don't scratch an itch, it will go away, was just not working. He just had to itch his foot. But when he scratched his left foot ever so gently with his other left foot, he released some foot fungus, and that made Armo Nubbin sneeze. Kerchoo! That's why we're wearing masks, because when you sneeze, that's what comes out. Not a good thing. Mr. Hesselgesser, who had also patiently stood waiting for a long time, he snatched up Pfaff with the flower pot in one scoop and carried him to the tool shed. Pfaff was sure this was the end and was about to pull out his pocket hatchet when Mr. Hesselgesser picked a pot of pickled beets from the shelf and handed them to Pfaff. Yay for pickled beets. You can do that. You can just open a can of pickled beets and dye your eggs. Here you go, little gnome. These will make your pink eggs extra bright. My pickling spice is an old family recipe that makes the beets extra juicy. He then gave Pfaff a jar of pickled beets and a ladybug and gently set the gnome on the other side of the garden gate. When Pfaff returned to the Garden of Good Juju, Eek, Tai, and Yo-Yo were perfectly impressed by the perky pink speckled pickled eggs that Pfaff patiently and proficiently produced. And that, my dear friends, my dear students, that's your last bonus point. Another chance, any of these, you can do all of them, is take your name and do an alliteration. Having to do at the lab would be awesome. That's where you keep repeating the same sound. So if your name started with P like Pfaff, perfectly impressed by the perky pink speckled pickled eggs that Pfaff patiently and proficiently produced. All right, I'm wishing you the most joyous, happiest Losar Year of the Metal Ox ever. Enjoy. Can't wait to see all your pictures.